but we're going to talk about what's going on right now. So just collectively, here's the thing. I'm just going to say this, right? Quarter one has been an abysmal failure in regards to TradFi. Is TradFi been an abomination, Steve-O?
For more or less for quarter one.
Right. Okay. And real quick, before we get going, guys, just remember to help out with the channel. Please click the like button. Please leave a comment. And then also, if you want Bitcoin emojis and more, we have created a very cheap membership because apparently, according to YouTube, part of the algorithm is you need to have members on your channel. So in order for my channel to get more momentum, I created a 99-cent membership, and it gives you a bunch of emojis, gives you a bunch of things that you can use in the chat, including a Bitcoin emoji and so much more. So join us on the membership side. If you want to buy some memberships, yesterday somebody bought like 70 memberships. A good friend of the channel, Anoop, he bought a bunch of different gifted memberships to you guys. So if you have those out of surprise, click the emoji button down below and you'll be able to have a custom amount of emojis. So that being said, let's jump right into it. I'm going to go around real quick. We're just going to get everybody's general take and thoughts on these tariffs. I'm going to go first. So what I think is happening is basically we are in another ranging period. Now, here's the thing. Before the Tokyo Crypto Show Season 2 was launched, this panel and more people of it, we have a 16-person research team, and we have been monitoring and maintaining a very, very strict eye on these markets since October 2023. And here's why. On October 2023, the Cointelegraph intern leaked that the ETFs were absolutely going to be approved. And that is when we started seeing some wild movement like never before seen in cryptocurrency. And I'm going to show you all the chart right now. Okay. So this is what happened. We happened right around here. I believe it was approximately like, it was literally this date right here. I believe it was October 15th. But yeah, see, look at this right here. October 15th, we went up. We went from approximately 27,000 and we wicked up to about 30. And then we came down, but then we just had this incredible stretch here that went all the way up until March 14th, where we peaked out around $73,000. But then from there, we had a long ranging moment. What a ranging moment means is that Bitcoin goes within a certain amount of range in price movement. Okay. So that being said, we had to be very patient. And then we launched Tokyo Crypto Show like right around here. We knew that, you know, the markets were going to be doing something around President Trump's election. And we just kind of had to endure. We got a couple of I think we started getting some rate cuts right around here, and that kept us moving. None in October, and then November, President Trump won, and then a couple of days later, the rates were cut again, and that jettisoned us all the way into December when we had some rate cuts again around the 18th, and then we ranged, and now we've been kind of stuck here, but now we're kind of losing some momentum and pressure, and it seems to me we're going to be doing some ranging. I think we will probably do some ranging until around rates get cut around, I would say, August, September, and then we're going to have something in Q4, and then we're cooked. What do you guys think here on the panel? I'll start with you, Elias, in regarding to your overall thoughts. I personally believe we're ranging. I believe President Trump is working with people. He's the president. He's not stupid. He knows that if every time he announces tariffs, markets crash, countries concede to the terms, and then the markets go back up. This has been happening since he became president on January 20th. And Elias, what's your thoughts on everything moving forward? If you want to do a general overview, actually, we'll save that for Lou. We'll go around, get everybody's opinion, and then Lou, we're going straight to you for Bitcoin, Solana, and then our weekly clowning of Ethereum. So go ahead, Elias.
Yeah, so basically for the ETFs, I hope that for the tariffs, I hope that the tariffs on Mexico and Canada will be lifted fully. At least I hope it for the US industry, because there you have companies like Boeing, and they get aluminum from Canada, then they bring it over the border to the US, then they process it a bit, then they send it back to Canada to do some value add there. And basically you have parts that go over the border because everything is so integrated between Canada, the US, and Mexico. You have parts that go over the border for 10, 20 times, and they need some sort of solution to not have to pay tariffs each time, basically. Otherwise, you just shoot yourself in the foot if you are the North American industry. So I hope this will get lifted. This would, I think, push the markets up. And the other point for the tariffs is China. I think right now the tariffs on China are hurting the US economy, at least from the perspective that the long-term goal of the US is to get production back into the US that was outsourced to China over the last decades. And if you look at the Chinese population, basically you have something like max 10 years left until their whole industry collapses because everyone is old and there are no kids anymore.
Yep.
So the cheap and easy option, at least in my opinion, would have been to use the currently still existing Chinese efficient industrial capacity to build up everything you need in the US, to build up the production facilities in the US using Chinese industry as long as it's still available, and then be ready when China goes down. But based on how much resources and production you need to build up more production capacity, if Chinese goods get that expensive coming to the US, all of this process of building up production capacity in the US will be slowed down considerably. So I think this is just a PR move, more or less, to show Canada, to show Mexico, and to show China that you can count on Trump from his perspective to do things in a normal way. That was the political tradition. And I think, or at least I hope, that the tariffs on these three countries will be lifted for the most part.
Yeah.
And as for regarding Bitcoin, I think the effect, we'll also see it in Bitcoin, but we might see a slow decoupling of Bitcoin from the general market because it has been stable together with the, so if you check the gold price and compared to Bitcoin, it has been stable for the last months, more or less. So I think we might actually see more people using Bitcoin as a store of value in hard economic times, which could be good for us or good for people that are in the market.
Interesting. All right, let's go right around straight up to Mr. Raskins. Your thoughts on what you're a veteran crypto trader, 7-figure trader. You've been through a couple of these. You were also ranging in bull bear Q1 with me. You've had a lot of time to kind of get settled in your home base and really lock in now down there in Thailand. What are your thoughts on everything, my friend?
Yeah, I guess I'll share my screen, but
pump it.
Very.
We're gonna jump into that real quick. Just your thoughts in general. If you need the screen share, that's fine too.
Oh, just my thoughts in general. Yeah, my thoughts in general are that, like you mentioned, Q1, it was absolutely terrible. I don't know if we have something that shows the number of the percent gain or loss in Q1 from all of the different years, but this one was pretty bad. I think this was the second worst one, or one of the worst ones for Ethereum, especially that other than the bear market itself, other than the actual bear markets. So yeah, that's so bad. It's the same. Yeah, 2018 to 2025. I didn't even realize it was actually that bad. Because
Yeah.
2018 was the bear market, and 2025 is literally basically the same. At least for Ethereum.
Yeah.
And then looking at
Ethereum's here minus 45%. I think we're gonna make a big comeback. Q2, we're gonna see 600% for sure, no doubt.
I was thinking more like 800, but so obviously alts like when it comes to altcoins, you could use Ethereum or Solana as like a basis for it, and just the fact that they're down so much really shows how beaten up altcoins are. And Bitcoin has been holding steady way better than anything else. There's a huge decoupling like of Bitcoin from alts. It's at the widest range it's been, I think, ever at this point, between what the difference is between Bitcoin and alts. And usually they're, lockstep. If Bitcoin goes up 5%, alts go up 25%. If Bitcoin goes down 5%, alts go down 25, 30%. But now it's like Bitcoin could range bound or even go up, and alts could just continue to get battered. So you gotta I think it's important to switch things up. And I have some strategies that I'm doing right now that I'll go over later when we get into the technicals. But overall, general thesis and general concept is that it's probably best to not be doing anything like for the long term. It's honestly a good time to step away from the market. If you're not actively trading really short type of bumps, which I don't even like to do that. I like to swing trade mostly, and like you said, we're in a range, so wait until we get to either prices that are lower, that are better deals, or higher, and then you could sell some, or we get to the point where things fundamentally change, because we need liquidity. Essentially, we need liquidity in order for us to go up. We need money to be pushed into the system. It's not really happening right now. So until that happens, I don't really see us going to new crazy levels. It's possible in 2020. It's possible at the end of the year. I think it's going to happen in the end of the year. It's just right now, things obviously are not looking like nothing's happening
I mean, the fucking TradFi markets and now the Bitcoin is kind of co-opted to a degree. They love edging you. They love just making you okay, we're no, because I think this last week, within the last 7 days, we did have Bitcoin head towards, I believe it was 88K, if I believe so. Yeah, it was just the other day. It was actually today. Today we hit up 87,892, but then about a week ago, give or take, we were also around 88K, but then we crashed down. So we seem to be, every time we get an inkling of momentum, and I'll just show you guys real quick on my what I'm looking at. A very simple chart. You can access this at coinmarketcap.com at home, and you can see this is just the 1 month picture. So we were on the beginning of beginning of March the 6th, we got up to $92,790, and then we kind of crashed down here, and then we just kind of been, like I said, just if you look at it, just looks like we're just kind of stuck in this range, starting right around here, around February 94-ish was on the 3rd, and then we've just been kind of ranging in this little perspective of things. So it's a tricky business. Steve, you got it coming in hot from the TradFi area, all the way live from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to you, sir, and talk to me.
All right. First, I'll follow up on one comment in the chat from Jacob's comments. Stock futures are what's crashing. The stock market performance today was fine, but it's what's going to come out tomorrow is what's going to be the crash that you're seeing from the tariff response. But
So you think we're going to bleed out more tomorrow morning?
Well, the futures are down, so yeah, the market's going to be reacting to the tariff news, because the tariff news came out towards the very end of the stock market trading session. So
yeah, 4 p.m.
Yeah, so they'll respond in turn tomorrow. That being said, though, the main things that I kind of want to cover today is if you look at non-farm payrolls, which is pretty much, or the JOLTS data, which is pretty much everything outside of, people who don't work on farms. So these are both your government employees and your private sector employees. I've been saying on the show for quite some time that if you look at the data from 2022, 2023, and 2024, the jobs creation has been collapsing. It's been falling off a cliff. We'll show you a chart in a minute where you can see this. However, very interestingly, and contrary to what many doomsdayers would say about Trump's tariffs creating fears for business reinvestment, the jobs creation has actually leveled off. It stopped falling as of the past few months. Now, employment can flag, jobs creation can flag, and then fall off further. However, this is a really good bullish signal for the American economy, because reason being, when Trump has been talking about, announcing these tariffs for a long time, the media was blaring on, and other analysts were blaring on about tariffs will create uncertainty for businesses. And this uncertainty for businesses will make them not want to reinvest. It'll make businesses not want to try and grow anymore. Rather, we don't know what's going to happen because Trump's whipping out the crazy tariffs. We're just not going to reinvest money into the economy because we don't know what to do. However, based on the latest ADP jobs report, which is jobs growth only in the private sector, it rose by 150,000 job openings, higher from the 77,000 figure that we saw last February. Now, this tariff news has been going on for a while, but if businesses really aren't reinvesting, as the media says, because they're all scared of Trump, why do we have 150,000 new jobs in the private sector, which is an improvement from February, right? Is there any way that we could pull up the chart that I gave in the chat earlier on Telegram?
Yes, 2 seconds. You're talking about the Fed?
Yeah. I just want everybody to see how it's been leveling off.
Okay, so this is... Oh, did somebody buy some... Oh, shout out to Lalo. He just gave 10 Modern Life Dating memberships to everybody. So use those... Spam those Bitcoin emojis in the chat, boys. Spam those Bitcoin emojis. We're going to be giving you some raw data here. So this is straight from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. Steve, is this okay for you, buddy?
Yes, it's loading it now. Perfect. Okay. So we can see that the new jobs creations was surging in 2022. That's because this economy was beginning to reopen from COVID. So everybody was being hired again. However, it's still high in 2023. And then if you look at most of the data from 2024, it's still falling. So it's this falling down mountain from 2022 to 2024. I mentioned this on the show many times as this being a potential reason for future rate cuts. However, if you look at the very end there, for the past few months, it stopped. The crash stopped. Now, my caveat to this is other economic data has been coming in kind of poorly, such as consumer confidence, such as projected GDP. Consumer spending growth has also been falling down a bit. So the Federal Reserve still has motivation to cut rates. However, what this jobs creation chart is saying to me is that we're not entering into the vicious cycle where, more people are laid off, they spend less money. Because they spend less money, more people get laid off, they spend less money, more people get laid off. This chart shows me that we're avoiding the full-blown dreaded, deep recession or an outright depression. So, this is just not what you see when that is happening. So, sorry, I'm just trying to think about everything that I want to mention to the chat. Yeah, for this reason, I'm not... Oh, yeah, sure.
Steve, so let me ask you something. From these numbers, the Biden administration was caught adding a bunch of fake jobs. Do you think this is kind of a correction heading into 23 into 24? And kind of like, you know, because I believed at one point, James, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think at one point they faked like up to 100,000 jobs, roughly. You remember
Yes,
that?
Yeah. So on this chart, quite frankly, the whole chart is going to be overestimated, but it still is an accurate chart for where the growth is headed. The actual number being shown on the figure is going to be slightly revised higher. That's what they've always been doing. However, the trajectory is still accurate. It's just you have to imagine it as if there's maybe 20,000, 30,000 jobs less for each sort of reported month on that chart if you want to control for that.
Okay. Good stuff.
But yeah, it's just the reason why I show this chart is that we're not going to go into a full-blown ass whooping like crash like 2008 or how 2000 was with the dot-com bubble. This just this information does not suggest that to me. And the other thing that I also want to emphasize is that I was on a call with my Merrill Lynch advisor. What he said to me, and I thought this was pretty insightful, is we don't want the economic data to come in so strong that the Federal Reserve thinks everything's okay and chooses not to cut rates and not start quantitative easing, right? But we don't want the economic data to come in so weak and so fast and fall down so quickly that it starts a panic, starts a crash, and starts a depression, because that will inevitably crash markets. What we really want for the best possible stock returns and the best possible crypto returns is a slightly slowing, slightly cooling economy, an economy that is slowing down, but not crashing. Because if it doesn't outright crash all at once, then the market will be spared. But if the economic data is still weakening, slowly, albeit, then the Federal Reserve will have the time to think to itself, maybe I should go ahead and cut rates. Maybe I should go ahead and start quantitative easing. And that is where we could get the bullish summer or the bullish fall that I've been sort of talking about in the past few shows. Yeah, that's sort of everything I wanted to mention.
Cool. Yeah, it just seems, I mean, what James has been telling us the whole time just seems to be ringing more and more true, which is we're just in this. Look at that trendy little cup he's drinking out of. This guy, you ready?
Let's see my fancy little hotel cup. Let me get my pinky up.
Yeah. Well, I told everybody you were working out late on the Christian mission that you're helping everybody with in the third world, telling everybody about Jesus. So
well, I was helping out with the Thailand earthquake relief.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Nana Plaza.
Okay, so, good. You're sheltering in all those poor homeless women now, right?
Yeah, me, Legal Mindset and Elevate Crypto. So, 3 Musketeers.
Elevate Cyber, you mean, not Elevate Crypto.
Elevate Cyber, yeah.
That's his next company. Yeah. Good stuff. So what, James, you've been in TradFi for 20 plus years. You've seen it all. What are your thoughts on this so far?
I think this is typically that market cannot make up its mind where to go, because the political narrative has been kind of mixed, right? We got Trump doing the whole, crypto reserve, crypto stockpile announcement. Then you got this big, friendly, very crypto-friendly, or the most crypto-friendly administration ever. Then you got Trump throwing the crypto or the tariff around left and right. Then we have the whole Ukraine-Russia thing. Is it going to be ceasefire? Is it going to be not? It's going back and forth. And we have, Federal Reserve still not sure about the liquidity situation and the rate cut. But so all these things going on, we tend to want to kind of step back and look at like a big picture, right? So let me share my screen here.
Okay. I'll read this real quick. Lafine, $5 super chat says, I'm closing in on half a Bitcoin. What's a good amount, you guys? What is a good amount to have, you guys think? I would say if you can get your hand on one whole Bitcoin, you're the man. How much Bitcoin do you guys personally hold? That's top secret. You don't ask people that. We are all just crypto enthusiasts. None of us on this panel own crypto at all. We all lost it in a boat accident on a Christian mission in Thailand.
Can you guys see the screen?
perfectly.
Okay, so this is again total crypto market cap. So
Yeah.
all this up and down for last a few weeks, this is all this was,
Yeah.
right? So people are like, sky's falling. Oh, we're the bottom's in. We're going up, left and right, right? Bull bear, bull bear. Well, only thing market did was just move up and down in this little range. So in big scheme of things, nothing really has changed. I think we're kind of losing the negative momentum, right? This is again, this is a MACD and stochastic RSI. They're both momentum indicator, right? So it shows you if market momentum is becoming more or less negative or positive. As it gets close to the zero line, it's kind of moving into the less negative momentum territory. So I think, yeah, we're kind of in the bottoming here, and it's just range bound until the whole market can make up its mind. That's all it's doing. Nothing really has changed.
Yeah, it's just, it's just this annoying. I mean, the thing that was kind of annoying was, like all this, there has been like, I would say the majority of the downward price movement that has happened in Q1 was directly related to Trump announcing tariffs, TradFi freaking out. Let me ask you boys, James and Steve, because you guys are in the TradFi. You guys are both actively working in TradFi right now as well for, very large companies making multiple millions of dollars. Why is TradFi so shaky and so like, oh my God, tariffs, let's sell everything? And like, don't they realize this is like, how are a bunch of schlubs like us seeing the pattern being played out here and holding strong, but these guys are losing their minds?
Well, you gotta kind of disconnect the Wall Street from the Main Street, right? I think Main Street is taking it much more kind of steady, or the more common sense approach, saying that, hey, tariffs, if you're kind of involved in the import export related business, then you're gonna have to kind of deal with it, or kind of work your way through it. But as you can see, if you're like in a domestic manufacturing or transportation business, that billions and billion dollars are coming in to invest in the country, which is a good thing, right? But to Wall Street, which is the big money and the traders, that it becomes kind of a more of uncertainty of how the other company are going to retaliate, as well as, is this tariff going to stick around? Because Trump kind of tend to kind of change his mind every hour on this tariff issue, right? He said, oh, I'm going to put in 25%. Oh, no, maybe I'll dial it back. Oh, we just got to deal with Mexico, so I'm going to suspend it for a month. Oh, 20% across the board, right? So it's really, they're just kind of going back and forth on the political narrative here, but nothing really has changed fundamentally. Steve?
In my view as to what's going on, and also just in my general experience, whenever there's something that the market or institutions don't understand and they don't know where it's going to lead to, because some of the fears also, well, what future tariffs might also come in, right? And they don't know how tariffs are going to realistically impact the economy. Kind of as a knee-jerk response, they'll often flee to more safe assets like gold and bonds. We saw that in the COVID crash in March, to give a very extreme example. But just in general, whenever there's anything that the market can't get its head around or refer to data on and it has to make guesses on, usually that makes institutions get defensive really quickly. I still agree with everything that James said, but I would also tack on this point.
Nice. Well, we have our work cut out for us this year. It seems to me we are going to be repeating 2024, if that. I think we're going to be ranging, and keeping your eye on the channel here, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be ranging till the end of the year, and then we're going to have some kind of movement but everything has been relatively kind of lackluster. So I'm wondering if we're going to have this, big blow off Q4 like people are assuming. Looking at everything here too, you could just kind of see this is the reciprocal tariff list released by the Trump administration. So the USA discounted reciprocal tariffs. So China will be getting 34%, which I think America is trying to bring up, because if we don't have China doing our manufacturing, American economy's cooked. But I think we're starting to try to bring manufacturing back a little bit. China just has so much slave manpower, though. You can't really beat free labor, even though their economy is completely in the dumpster as well. Their economy is totally paper. I think James, you and Steve can talk about that too. The illusion of Chinese superiority is just supremacy is just that illusion.
Well, yeah, but so quick comment, right?
Yes.
As you guys know, that there was a huge earthquake here last week on Friday here in Southeast Asia. Started in Myanmar, and it was about, I guess, a 7.7, 7.8 level earthquake, and it kind of fell the shock was felt kind of through all the way to Bangkok, and one of the only buildings that collapsed in Bangkok was a near completed construction, brand new building built by Chinese engineering company. Right?
What's that? Do you know the name of that building? Do you know the name?
No. I if you guys just Google it, it'll show up. It's pretty famous, right? So there's millions of views on YouTube and stuff. But it totally collapsed, and there's a huge investigation going on via Thai government saying that out of all the buildings in Bangkok, that's only one collapsed, and it wasn't like and it was
I just found it. I found it.
Found it on the Chinese internet as like the crown jewel of Chinese civil engineering, and they've been kind of scrubbing all those things off their internet after the collapse. So
I love it.
And a lot of the damage to Myanmar and Cambodia was done due to what's called the tofu drag by Chinese construction, right? Again, the manufacturing, as we know, anybody who bought Chinese stuff, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's inconsistent, right? The level of quality is inconsistent still. And one of the things I like to say about the tariff, remember, it's a reciprocal tariff. It's not just straight up tariff, because my understanding was that after World War I and World War II, a lot of the countries' industry were devastated, and as a U.S., which was one of the only countries that was not affected, that we decided to let the other countries put the tariff on our exports to help them out to get their industries going, right? But now, we can't compete anymore because of it. So I think what Trump and his administration is trying to do is kind of level the playing field, because, hey, we gave you 50 years to catch up, and now you guys have caught up, and some even have surpassed us. So I think it's time to kind of reset the playing field.
That's crazy. So it was a 30-story tower and it completely collapsed?
Yeah.
That's insane. How many people were
I
taken
think
out?
It was like 45. There's like 10 people dead and like a few people injured, and there's like 20 or 30 people missing still.
This is the China Railway Group who built this. That's the name of the organization.
Yeah, it's supposed to be crown jewel of civil engineering founded by Chinese internet. Now they scrubbed all the mention of it on their internet, and there were 4 people from that company that got caught by Thai police sneaking into the building after it collapsed, or the building office, tried to get the paperwork out, sneak out some of the paperwork.
Wow, that's insane. And that's the one and only building that collapsed?
Yes, in Bangkok.
Yeah, China Tofu Building, says Crypto Life. You're right. Look, guys, we've been talking about it. At first I was believing the propaganda during the pandemic about Chinese supremacy. But then, thank God, I started doing some deep digging, and then I ran into Joel, and then you, and then now Steve. Steve, you want to add anything about just China's overall just faking and lying everything?
Well, like for example, one region in China reported something. This is off the top of my head, but somewhere around like 24% youth unemployment in one of the wealthiest cities in the country. And for reference, I mean, Spain's total unemployment in the worst nadir from 2008, in the year 2012, they reported 26% national unemployment. Now, Spain also had 54% youth unemployment, but the fact that Chinese youth unemployment is reaching near to where Spain's national unemployment figure was in the worst parts of 2008 shows no confidence at all. And you know what they did after that report is they stopped releasing the youth unemployment figures just because they didn't want to spook the markets. The other thing about China is the firm that I work at, it's one of the leading, by far the leading forensic accounting firms in the whole world. And we've done this forensic accounting on many Chinese companies. And according to our data, about 1/3 of publicly listed Chinese companies are on the verge of bankruptcy. We made this call maybe a little over a year ago. And so far, if you followed the Chinese economy, pretty much week after week, you had news of publicly listed Chinese firms going bankrupt, and that's still continuing. Now, I will say China's turned the fuck on out of the money printer. You know, they're really, really, really revamping the stimulus now, but they're doing this, like 3 years after Evergrande? So that's 3 years of ongoing economic pain that you did nothing to account for. You did nothing to respond with. They had no stimulus in all of those 3 years. And so because of that, the aftermath of that crash is going to continue. Sure, you're going to see elevated Chinese equities. Of course, you're going to see elevated Chinese equities. They're printing the shit out of their currency. But again, what happens when you run the money printer? You're taking money out of day-to-day people's pockets. It's going to worsen inequality in China. And yeah, no. If you look at the earnings quality of like Chinese steel producers, for example, or a lot of things that relate to raw goods and materials, or like Chinese solar panel producers, their earnings reports have been falling and falling and falling and have been very negative. China's also stopped reporting other economic numbers aside from youth unemployment. So clearly they're trying to get hush-hush about what is or isn't going on about their economy. And the fact that they're having this huge lack of transparency just doesn't give me any confidence at all. Because again, if things were going well in China, the underlying point is, if things were going well in China right now, they'd be willing to report it. Hey guys, we're growing, we're winning, we're beating the US. But since that's not happening, they're not saying shit.
I think they even stopped reporting their birth rate. That's really sus. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's one of the big things that they were touting. The birth rate and population data, they stopped reporting it, I think.
Yeah.
Now that kind of goes to show you that the 1.4 billion people narrative that they've been touting for the last few decades, is that really real? Because a couple of studies I read is that they compared salt consumption as well as the electricity consumption compared to the population growth of other country versus China's population growth. And they said the numbers do not correlate, right? So it's off. So as the population of China went up and up and up, the corresponding salt and electric consumption should have kept up, right? But the population went up, but the salt and electricity consumption kind of went up, but at a much lower rate. So you're telling me that as population goes up and per capita income of people goes up, they're going to consume less electricity and less salt, which does not make any sense, right?
Right.
So the hush hush kind of backroom number of Chinese peak population is actually less than 8 billion. So it was somewhere about a third less. That's what I've heard. So it's probably around 800 to 900 million, not 1.4 billion.
Really?
That's correction. Right.
That's insane.
Crazy. That's crazy, right? So their consumer base and the housing market and all those numbers are fake and gay.
Yeah. That's the, I
And
mean, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like some of the and they stopped publishing a lot of economic data because when things were going well, like Steve said, they were publishing all these economic data. Then about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they stopped publishing it. And the other thing that I've heard is that the debt that you see on the official number is just the central government CCP issued debt. Way I understand it is local government underneath the federal government can also issue debt and sell land, and that is going to be probably, if you factor that in, the Chinese debt is about 3 times as much as what's officially on the books.
Jesus Christ. I mean, China is like, you know, I mean, I live in Japan. Steve's lived in Japan for the longest time. And like, you know, it's hard to get a good deal with Chinese people. They're always kind of get a discount. They're always trying to cut corners. You know, there is some strength to that. Like when America makes some like really crazy overpriced software, and then China will come in and like replicate. That's what China does. They steal something. They make like the Chinese version, they optimize it as much as they can, and then they release it to the market at a fraction of the cost in order to like spite America. But again, like I said, the only thing that keeps the lie going in today's day and age is more lies, and just not looking hot for China and stuff,
Yeah,
especially with Steve mentioning. I mean, how much liquidity have they injected into the market now? Over like 400 million.
$1 trillion. Yeah, close to $1 trillion.
Since
And
when?
remember, just one thing though, John, is that let's separate Chinese people from their government, CCP
For sure.
policy, right?
Yes.
So it's mostly it's the CCP policy that's driving all these things, not Chinese population. Chinese
Right.
population can only react because it is one party system, right? So only thing they can do is react to what their party is doing or the government is doing. So it's this centrally planned economy concept that's driven by the really two things here, manufacturing and real estate. And manufacturing has been leaving since COVID, and the real estate market has been tapped out. So now they're saying, oh shit, we're going to have to grow consumer base like US and other Western economy has been doing. But now they're saying, well, our consumer base isn't really big as we thought because it's not 1.4 billion, it's more like 900 million. Then our people don't have money. So they've been printing and trying to get the money to people's hands, but it's just not working because of the one party and there's so much corruption and the fakeness that's in the system due to the CCP control.
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, I just wanted to say the real estate market is not gonna get better anyways because they have hundreds of millions of apartments
empty.
There's no
cities, man,
to live there. And one fact about Chinese real estate is that a lot of apartments, I don't know the exact number, but more than half of them, as far as I know, are owned by multiple families. So they have like neighbors that bought an apartment together. So it's extremely hard to sell it.
Yeah.
And this way, there's also no big liquidity, and most people, because they aren't allowed to buy foreign stock for the most part. So the population, they aren't allowed to invest a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So what is left is real estate. And on paper, a lot of people in China got credits and used the apartments they co-own with other families and people as the security for those credits. But once all the economic data goes through the market, the national market there realizes what's up basically and reacts to the situation. a lot of people will just default on their credits, and what they think they earned and put aside as retirement money during all their decades of hard work will be gone overnight. So, and I think this is, when this happens, I think this is the day that the society more or less collapses there.
Yeah, this is the M2 money supply in China. And so here in January, we had 318,000 billion. What is that, James? 318.
Yeah, that's million, 319,000 million. So that's 380 billion, right? So it's 1,000 million.
Okay. So it's $320 million.
No, 320 billion.
20. Wow, no
remember,
big deal.
It's 1,000 million, right, John?
Got you. So we're looking at over $500 billion.
They've been doing it since last year. Look at starting September.
Yeah. Wow, we should have been tracking this too. This is
they know something is wrong, right? Really, and they're trying to kind of prop up this, house of cards there by pumping in liquidity, and sooner or later it's going to go belly up.
You can click on the 10-year.
Yeah,
look at that.
Looks natural.
Even the Federal Reserve one isn't that bad.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's
Well, let's bring it back to crypto real quick. Lou, whenever you're ready, my friend, let's just take a look at Bitcoin, Solana, and then our weekly clowning of Ethereum. I'm sure this is the week Ethereum turns it around, guys. I'm sure this is the week. Because it's just ETH is the future, bro. Look at the founder. He was smelling a robot dog's butt the other day. Did you see that?
And barking to it. To a robot. Yeah. So you want me to pull up the charts and go through the TA?
Let's go, baby. Let's pump it. Let's pump Ethereum to 10,000. Let's go.
Okay. Let's
there you go. What a nice, beautiful, simple, clean chart you got there for everybody at home. Might want to close that right panel where all those extra numbers are. It's going to overwhelm. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. I learned my lesson, trying to make it easy. This is Ethereum. So let me go back to the top. I'll just do the total, the dominance levels, and Bitcoin and Ethereum because it's sort of important. So first off, we have the total market cap of everything. This is all of crypto put together, and we are right at the previous all-time highs. So it is cool that we did, surge past them, but it's like you would think that we would go a little bit further or higher than just, what is this, 23% more than the previous all-time highs. I mean, if you look at the last cycle, it went from about 300% above the previous all-time highs. So that's some indication that it's not over, because we definitely should be a lot higher. If even if you're saying every single cycle goes less and less and less, this is the previous cycle went almost 300% higher than the last cycle high, and now like I said, we only went 22% higher. So I do think eventually we will see that, I mean, in time, 100% eventually, I don't know how long it's going to take, we will see this, but I'm thinking like hopefully by the end of the year we'll see something turn around, whether it's here or whether it's here or something. But yeah, there's still plenty of areas to bounce from for the total market cap. And for the total market cap, excluding Bitcoin, we're coming into a pretty decent area. You can see it bounced off of here multiple times. And so if it comes down here, if it falls a little bit lower, That's where I want to get in. And this sort of falls in line with basically what you were talking about, how we're in a range and we should really just play the range. It's not difficult. Like, we don't need to overcomplicate things. Things are going up and down in such a small little, like, look at this. It's such a small area that things are bouncing from, that it's not really the time to be making any huge decisions going all in or all out. Because what you want to do is you want to do that in the big areas. So what's a good time frame that makes it look nice? So this is pretty good. So you could see this whole area, this red box, this was a big area. It was a big major area.
What is this, the 3-day?
This is the 3-day chart for Bitcoin.
Okay.
So every single one of these candlesticks represents 3 days in time. And it's like, you could see that we bounced and bounced and bounced off of this area between 93 and 96,000 so many times. And when we did fall underneath of it, what happened? Well, we had that Trump announcement of the strategic crypto reserve, and it jumped all the way back right into that area, that big major area, and then it crashed, you know? So this is an area where if the price does come back up here to this $93,000 to $96,000 area, that would be a good area to go a little bit more risk off, to sell, just in case we do end up turning around and coming all the way back down, or even turning around and coming, you know, back down here. It doesn't matter, because it's such a high probability area of the price dumping from, right? Likewise, or opposite, we have this area down here between $71,000 and $75,000. This area, if I zoom back, was a huge area that the price just kept on getting resisted from. It kept on bouncing off of, getting beaten down from this area multiple times.
Yes.
And what typically happens is that when price gets beaten down from an area multiple times, that's a huge resistance. And as soon as the price comes right above it, it turns into a support. So the same thing. So what happens is it goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It busts through it. When it comes back down to that area, now that becomes support, and it tends to turn around from that area. Same exact thing happens when the price bounces off of support multiple times. If it goes back underneath of it, once it comes back up, this area now becomes a huge resistance. That's what we saw, right? Sorry, that's what we saw right here. That's what I just explained earlier, right? So down here is sort of like the opposite of up here. Up here, we had the support, breakthrough, come up, bam, resistance, falls back down. So now I'm thinking we have support. We never actually came back down here yet. So if we do come back down here, boom. Big resistance turns into support. So those are the two big areas that I think people should be paying attention to, and they should have alerts in these areas. And if we come down here, that's definitely where I want to be getting into Bitcoin, especially between 75 all the way down to, say, $72,000, $71,000. But right here, it's in this area that we're in. It's, just choppy. It's really, really difficult. And what we call this a very low alpha playing field. It's basically a playing field that is very, very difficult to win in. So why even try, or why even risk your money? Because in trading and investing, the number one and number two rules is to not lose money, right? You want to not lose money. You want to protect your capital, because what we know is that in crypto, especially, if you can preserve your capital, if you can actually save your money, eventually when things do turn around, you will make everything back and more, and you will actually be successful and win in this space. So preserving capital is the way to go, and just waiting until those two things hit is the smart decision. And I also want to go over the Bitcoin dominance chart, because this is actually
that's fucking
really
huge.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is actually a crazy chart. Pretty much what this chart is telling you is the dominance level of Bitcoin. So out of all of the different cryptocurrencies that are available in the market, how dominant is Bitcoin? How much market share does Bitcoin take in the overall crypto space? Right now, Bitcoin controls 62.81% of all of the cryptocurrencies. So if all of the cryptocurrencies put together were $100, $62.8 of that is actually put into Bitcoin. So that's showing that Bitcoin is really dominant. It is totally more dominant than altcoins, and it's just continuing to just be dominant and move up. So if you're going to long anything, if you're going to buy anything, Bitcoin is the safer play. So when do you want to get into Bitcoin versus when you want to get into alts is you could use this chart to sort of map that out for you. So down here, it was a good area to get into alts according to this chart. And was a good time to get into Bitcoin according to this chart, because Bitcoin dominance was so low, so Bitcoin dominance was going to rise. And what has happened since basically 2022? Bitcoin has basically outperformed everything. Shockingly, Bitcoin has been the dominant player. Bitcoin went from $15,000 all the way up to $108,000 since this time. And a lot of altcoins are actually down, further down than what they were before, unless you got into the specific ones that actually outperformed. And then right here is the area that, if you look to the left, it dumped from this area before, and this is when alt season came in 2021. And so once it came back up to that area, you would think, okay, this is a good area to get into altcoins. And not only that, but it actually lined up perfectly with Trump's, inauguration or election day, in November 4th. And we did see a lot of altcoins start ripping right in this area. But obviously, as you could see, that didn't last for very long. And by January, most alts were starting to dump, if not already have dumped. And now Bitcoin dominance really took over. And so what this is saying right here is that altcoins fell in value a lot more than Bitcoin did. And so that pushes the dominance of Bitcoin up higher, because more money is fleeing alts and moving into Bitcoin. And because that happened, and this was really the area that it should have, if we were going to have a alt season, like everyone says, it should have happened here, and we should have continued to go down. Maybe we would have gotten a bounce and then kept on going down, something like that. That is what should have happened. But because it didn't, now the safest play is just stick with Bitcoin until the next area on the Bitcoin dominance chart is hit, the next resistance, and that is at this Fibonacci level up here, the 78.6, which was a resistance right there. And so we have some time. This is telling me we have time and to get into altcoins, and I don't want to rush anything. Once the Bitcoin dominance comes up here, maybe Bitcoin dominance is going to get a little overheated, and it could turn.
What percentage is that?
This is 66.23% on the Bitcoin dominance chart.
Got it.
And it's getting into, this area that was the previous all-time highs or the previous highs. Once the Bitcoin dominance gets too high, that's when altcoins have the best opportunity to move and to go up and to go higher. So once it comes up here, that's when I want to start thinking to myself, okay, maybe we have an opportunity for altcoins to really move. Maybe we have an opportunity for the market to really, get good and start moving up quite drastically. And so, but right now it's like we're sort of in the middle. It's just a bunch of empty space over here, and there's nothing really telling me, oh yeah, we should, be buying and buying and buying like right now. So I'm a little bit more conservative. But once we do reach this area, that's when I would want to get more into altcoins. But right now, Bitcoin is the safest play. It's only down 23%, which in bull markets is actually totally something that has happened multiple times, to be down 20, 30%. Even last cycle, we had a drop of 50% right here, and then we ended up making new all-time highs. So in terms of how far Bitcoin has dropped, it dropped 30% and bounced, but that's not out of the ordinary. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you can't really say, oh, the drop is so bad for Bitcoin. It is bad for alts. There are a lot of altcoins that dropped 80% or more, 70, 80, 90%, right? So that's really bad. But for Bitcoin, it's still in a decent range. One thing that is scary, though, or one thing that I do think is concerning, is actually the stock market. So if you look at the stock market, this is where we are right now for the S&P 500, and we're down about basically 10% from the highs. But if you look back to 2022, we actually fell 27% in 2022. And even before that, we had what was this? Was this the COVID crash? Yeah, this was the COVID crash. That was 36%. And what was this? This was in 2018, we dropped 21%. And we're only about 9-10% right now. So I do think that there is some more room to go in terms of the stock market, like moving down. I really like Fibonacci levels. So if you take the Fibonacci from the most recent low to the most recent high, that puts us at 4,900. And this would be a really good area, in my opinion, to be more risk on. And actually, if you look to the left, what is this? This is basically the previous high. And remember what we said: when things get rejected and there's a resistance, once we break through that, it turns into support. It actually sort of did. It basically did right here. So we already have one bounce off of this support. And if we come down here, then I would expect another bounce, and maybe this to be the low. And that would put us at around 20% from the highs. So yeah, I think being cautious is a good idea. Today we had some, we had some potential movement up with Trump's big inauguration or big day. What was today? What did he call today?
Liberation Day.
Liberation Day. Yeah. So we had some potential, bullish news with Liberation Day, but as you could see, the price, basically whipsawed, and you could see that it whipsawed with these big wicks that happened all the way down and then pop back up and then all the way up and then pop back down. So it's really difficult to be trading this. And so that's why I'm just waiting. But once we do come down here, it's a great idea to put alerts into your phone. You set up alerts for free in, these areas, and really get involved in the market down here or up here. And that's, I guess I'll move on to, I'll just do Sol really quickly, and then ETH really quickly too. Here's Solana. Like I said, altcoins have taken a beating much more than Bitcoin has. Bitcoin, we just said it was, what was it? 20% from the highs, I think. And this is 60%. So, and let me just double check that really quickly, because I forgot. This was from the highs, 25% from the highs, and like at the very low, it went 30%. So yeah, at the very lowest, Bitcoin went 30% from the highs. Solana went down 62% from the highs. So more than twice that of Bitcoin. And that's just showing the power that Bitcoin has. And I'll explain this a little bit in just a second. But there's a lot of things happening with Bitcoin that are very bullish, while I don't really see that on alts. So yeah, man, looking at this Solana chart now. So now I'm looking at the Solana chart, and I'm seeing we had this major support area, and we actually just broke through that. So personally, I don't think it's a good idea for Solana until at least we, come back above that 127, big support area that we just had, and we just broke underneath of it. If we come back above here, maybe you could get in on a retest and move up. But chances are that we come up and sort of reject from it, because there's 3 different things. I already explained how you get support, you break through the support, it turns into resistance. We saw this on Bitcoin. And then the other thing is resistance, break through the resistance, it turns into support, right? So that's another thing to look out for. And so, yeah, this right here looks like this, basically support. It's breaking through it right now. So chances are that there's a lot of traders that are looking at this and thinking, oh, once it comes back up to the previous support, I want to short it. I want to sell it once it comes back up. And that's probably why we, had this move down from this area, right? This entire move down. And so, yeah, cautious. I'd be more cautious. I wouldn't be throwing things in just to throw things in, unless you have a very long-term vision. Then I think it would be, okay. But we're in a downtrend, and we're in a downtrend on pretty much every single time frame. So until we switch going from a downtrend, basically like this, until we at least do something like this, and looks like it might be moving, or if it's going down and then it sort of just goes sideways, and this is this, when it goes sideways, could be known as an accumulation phase, that then this is a good time to get in. This is a good time to get in. But if it's just simply going down like this, unless you're very skilled, this is typically not a good time to get in. You want to be getting in with the trend, because you're more likely to make money, and that's when the trend is going up. So you want to get in when it's going up, and you want to get in on pullbacks. And right now, I really, I just see down, right? So maybe if it consolidates, then you could say, okay, look, the sellers are exhausted, so I'll get in, or if it, consolidates and then starts moving up, you could say, oh shit, okay, maybe we're coming back up and we're coming back into this bullish, we're being bullish again. So, okay. But until that happens, like I said, unless you're very good at timing bottoms, or you're looking at the big picture, or you have a very long time frame and you have good reason to believe that Solana will be much higher, which there are reasons to think that, such as the potential ETFs coming out, then it's like, okay. But otherwise, I would just sit on your hands. Trading should be boring. Investing should be boring most of the time. And yeah, it's in the boring phase right now. And then finally, Ethereum.
Save the best for last. We're all getting Lambos, boys. Just buy Ethereum.
Okay, let me tell you something. I don't understand this. I don't understand how this is possible. This is at the same what this is right now, at the same price that it was at in fucking February of 2021. Oh my god. Oh my god.
We finally hit the bottom 4 years later.
Finally hit the bottom. You know what's good though? You know what I heard something? When did the FTX collapse? That was in November of 2022, I think, right? So where is that? Somewhere around here. So basically people that are getting their FTX claims back are getting Ethereum back at the same price that they sold it.
Yikes.
That's crazy. That is just, yeah. So obviously Ethereum, one chart to look at is the Ethereum, oh my god, against Bitcoin chart. So pretty much in crypto, what you want to do, let me go back to my thing real quick. Can you share? Can you share my screen, or not my screen? Myself. Okay, so, or put me in the corner, and then if you can, and then me. Anyway, this is fine. So in crypto, if I could be in a little, that would be better. But in crypto, you're basically you want to outperform. This is fine. This is cool. If you want to outperform Bitcoin, right? That's what you want to do. So if you look at a chart like this, this is Ethereum. This is ETH, okay, against Bitcoin. So if you were in Ethereum at any time since 2020 at this point, and you held and you did not sell, you would have underperformed Bitcoin. And in crypto, the number one thing that you want to do, the number one metric should be what has Bitcoin done and can you outperform it? Like in the stock market, you want to say, can I outperform the S&P 500? If you can't, why are you even bothering? Just put it into the S&P 500 and walk away, right? In crypto, just put it into Bitcoin and walk away unless you think you have alpha. You have something that can outperform Bitcoin, right? And a lot of people thought that ETH could, and it obviously it hasn't. It's been such a abysmal thing. Fundamentally speaking, it's actually like really good fundamentally, but this is why I look at the charts and I don't care necessarily too much about fundamentals, because if you want to actually go to this website, I'll drop it in the chat right here. This is BlackRock's RWA, Real World Asset Fund, called the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, the BIDL or whatever, BIDL. It's actually added over $1 billion worth of Ethereum this month. So there are lots of institutions buying a lot of Ethereum, but at the same time, Ethereum has more short positions driving the price down now than it's ever had in its history. So I do think there is something behind that. There is something to think about here. Why are all of these big institutions buying so much, like over $1 billion worth of Ethereum, while also suppressing the price and keeping it down with the most amount of shorts? And that does have me thinking, okay, maybe there's a possibility that in the future, Ethereum actually will turn around and, shoot up and go back to the all-time highs, which I think is actually possible. However, I am a chartist. I look at the charts. I'm a technical analyst, and this chart is telling me everything that I need to know, which is that Ethereum is absolute trash. It is absolute garbage. And if you are in it right now, you're a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand to actually try to time the bottom of this. I think I tried to time the bottom of this right here. I bought here and I thought I was a genius because it went up, and then it came back down and I was like, oh shit. So I ended up getting out on a pop, right? And then I thought, okay, well, you know what? Maybe at the 61.8, this is a big area. I got in literally right here, timed the bottom perfectly. It shot up. I thought I was a genius again. It came all the way back down. I was like, God damn it. So I got back out and I had to get back out again. And then after that happened, I was just like, this is not no, this is not the move. Just Bitcoin or maybe something else, right? And so yeah, until this actually, like I mentioned before, until this turns around and starts doing something like this, okay, that's when you could get into Ethereum, and it will be like the intelligent thing to do. It'll be the smart thing to do because he'll probably outperform Bitcoin. But as long as it's doing this, which is what it's been doing since September of 2022, stay away. So that's Ethereum. And it's important to look at every single chart against Bitcoin in that sense. Like this is the Solana against Bitcoin chart. You could see it was doing really, really well. It would have been so smart to get into Solana anytime in 2023. And then in 2024, the buyers basically, they slowed down and it just went, consolidated. And now we're moving down of Solana against Bitcoin. So it's better to be in Bitcoin versus Solana right now. But maybe this will come down here, start doing this, and then, okay, get back into Solana. That's the smart move. And that's the way to be thinking about when you are investing into crypto, because everyone wants to jump into altcoins. That's basically whenever someone gets into crypto, they see the big gains in altcoins, they want to jump into altcoins. But look and compare the altcoin against Bitcoin and see, is it at a really good level? Is something happening? If it is, that's when you get in. Or if you know of something very fundamental that's happening, or if you could think of like it's something's going to happen in the future for your particular altcoin, then it could be okay. But yeah, that you want to wait until things bottom out. And that's that's pretty much the market right now.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's something that is fundamentally happening behind the scenes.
I agree. I agree.
But it's
could I
not
expand?
not showing up. And
Go ahead, Elias.
It's not showing up.
Yeah, Louis, I just wanted to ask if you could show the ETH chart again, the
Here you
ETH
go.
to BTC chart.
ETH BTC. Go ahead, Lou. Pull it up for a second
And-
if you can, please,
and-
sir.
Let me throw this
Just the
up right.
same from right,
Yes.
and show the audience where September 15th, 2022 is.
So September 5th. No, let me get the
Yeah, just September 2022.
right.
Doesn't have to exactly.
Here is September of 2022. Is right here.
Can you just pull that to the left and zoom in?
I just wanted to, so this date, September 15th, 2022 is when Ethereum switched from proof of work to proof of stake. So they stopped mining. And the big problem is, of course, I'm a mining fan doing it myself, but the big problem with that is, to expand on what Louis said, is not that they switched to mining. The big problem is that the promise ETH as a product was decentralized finance. And with proof of stake, what happened in the background and got even worse over time and is a full shit show right now is that a few big companies took control of all the ETH validator nodes. So it's not decentralized anymore. And finance is something we already have. So with this move from proof of work to proof of stake, where you need a gigantic server and a lot of cash to actually run a node, they killed the decentralization and opened themselves up to competition like Solana and like other chains. And the only game left was who has the faster chain you can do casino stuff on, or gambling on, basically. What is the state of the market for big parts of the DeFi space right now? So they switched from DeFi to CeFi. And regarding what was said before with BlackRock and some others putting money into ETH, I think maybe they just replaced retail. So normal people using ETH DeFi, they switch from normal people as clients, basically, or as the target audience for the product, to bigger institutions. Because if BlackRock controls something like 20% of Ethereum nodes, and I don't know, Vanguard or banks control some other double-digit percentage, it could be added security for those institutions, even though they don't need it. It's more or less marketing, I think. But this could give it a second life. But I think the time for the consumer is over, because they had time to make the requirements to run a node easier, so that a lot of people can do it from home, which would have put maybe the decentralization back into the product. But they ran out of time, and yep, that's it.
Wow.
Just
There you
wanted
go.
to give this as
That's a
background
great
info.
point. Yeah,
That
that's
is
a great
good. That is a really good point. Real quick, so I want to add something. So Gabby says, "Bro, if XRP went from 50 cents to $3, why not ETH do something similar?" Well, like Lewis was mentioning, there is so much sell pressure. I think anybody who has been in crypto more than 2 cycles can see the writing on the wall. It is relatively puzzling to see all these large asset managers and everything buying large amounts of Ethereum. I really have no idea, but that is something you can't just brush off either. But in regards to this question, Ripple controls the majority of the supply, and Ripple is like a friggin' mafia of banks that are working together. So that's they were able to inflate the price the way they did. That was not, not 100% organic at all.
XRP actually went up like 100,000, like 90,000%. Like it basically did do that. Like it, because remember XRP was like 0.004, it was so low when it first came out. It came out in 2013. So it was a fraction of a cent, right? It was so low, and it went all the way up to $3.50. That's like 90,000%. So it's similar from Ethereum going from $3 to, like $3 to whatever, like 4,000. Like actually Ethereum was under $1 when the VCs were able to get into it and were able to first invest into it. But like it did something like percentage wise, like XRP did go up like from the start. So but one thing about XRP, I want to know everyone's opinion. Like I feel like I know them, but like I also want to know something, because one thing that I think about XRP is that it's like it's the only one that every single normie knows about, and every single no coiner is like an XRP fanatic. It's the only coin. Like I don't see any other coin have such a rabid fan base that's just so delusional in it. And I almost think like that delusion could push the price up. And not only that, but XRP, obviously, like Brad Garlickhouse is in the White House with Trump, right? And they have ties and connections there. So I don't know. I used to be such a big hater of XRP, and I would buy it still, just like if the charts told me to. Yeah. But now I'm thinking like, man, this might be the only coin that actually like ends up doing some scam pump like sometime. I don't know. I just can't say like it's so I could still say it's stupid and I hate it because it goes against what the ethos of what Bitcoin is, and I got into Bitcoin like for the libertarian principles and the actual like moral and ethical ethos of it, like back in the day. But now it's like, damn, XRP really did do something. At least this cycle, it outperformed most other alts at the very, very, very end for like 2 weeks, but still it did. And I don't know. I think there's something there with XRP. Like, I think that if XRP does end up dropping a significant amount, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get it, just because I don't know, there's so much normie potential there. Like there's so much potential from not just the normies, but also the people in the White House. But I don't know if anyone else thinks differently.
So let me share my data point a little bit, kind of do with the ETH, right? So give me 1 second, okay? This is something I was looking at. Let me see here. Did you guys see this?
Yep, you're in.
Okay, so this is Visa's data. They look at stable coins because obviously they're point of sales people, right? So they don't care about the actual token price or the coin price, but they want to know the stable coin. So here, this is overall transaction metrics, stable coin transaction volume by. So this is how much dollars of stable coin gets moved, right? So if you look at all the chains, guys can see this, right? I'm including most majority chains.
Mm-hmm.
As you notice, the stable coin volume went up, right?
Yeah.
But let's just look at the biggest here. One of the reasons that Ethereum is not going anywhere, but look at how much of the stable coin transaction is performed on Ethereum. Over $200 billion a month, right? So then you look at next biggest chain, Solana, right? Not
Yeah,
even close.
Yeah.
But
Still
it's
growing,
not even
but
close.
even close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Started moving about the time with the coin Telegram intern releasing the leak of the ETFs.
Look at Tron. Look at that shit. That's why Tron is being pretty strong, is that it's been used as a stable coin, right? Look at BSC. Right? Again, here's Binance Chain. Launch. Right? Again, so really, ETH, then kind of, okay, so this was the dollar amount, right, guys? Let's look at the number of transactions. Here's a number of transaction. You're looking at Ethereum. What's the peak here? Around 15 million transaction, right? But let's look at Solana, 24 million transaction. So what does that tell me? Is that Solana is outperforming. It's got more transactions of stablecoins on Solana, but dollar amount is much smaller on Solana, right? So the Ethereum, to me, it seems like it's being used by bigger players and institutions to move money around.
Yeah.
But Solana is being used by much smaller players and maybe individuals to move money around, right? So again, the ETH, I think, like Luis said, it's not a coin for if you're looking to make money on it, but I think it's getting some type of institutional adoption behind the scene by just looking at the stablecoin transactions on Ethereum.
The thing is, Ethereum is so like, it's like a tree with really, really, really deep roots.
Yep.
You know, but it's dead. There's no doubt that this thing is so dead and cooked. But there's
but I don't think it's going anywhere. Would you make money on it if you bought it? Probably not. But I don't think it'll go to zero. I don't think it'll go to zero.
Well, to wrap it up, guys, what do you guys in the chat, real quick, let's do a quick vote for all the people watching at home. Real quick, do you think that today's, and don't cheat, but do you think Bitcoin ETF today was net positive or negative? So write the word positive or negative in the chat in regards to today's gigantic sell-off in the cryptocurrency market as well as the TradFi market. Plus, we are still going to have so much bleed tomorrow, according to Steve's prediction. Lifting Lawyer, he thinks we're going to be positive for today. Anybody else? Let us know. We're going to vote. We're going to have some votes in the chat because I think it'd be interesting to see the reaction from you guys in the chat. So AZ Marine says positive. Namen Baron Beaton says positive. We got Guy Reacts says positive. Yeah, you guys have been pretty smart. You guys are well trained. You've been paying attention. Yeah, today we had a big positive inflow day. BlackRock with the $116 million in outflow, but collectively we had 20.1% of $1 billion heading in. That's $217 million still inflowing. The only one with outflows are BlackRock. Everybody was either positive, but Invesco and Valkyrie and Wisdom Tree, as well as Grayscale, but not the Grayscale Mini, all have zero. Everybody else big on the inflows. If Fidelity is now allowing people to buy tokens using their IRA Roth too, from what I heard. That's a new thing that just hit. You're muted, James. But yeah, that's the thing that just hit.
Yeah, Fidelity is probably one of the biggest player in the corporate retirement space, right? So they manage and sell to a lot of the 401k market. So if they're allowing people to start buying their Bitcoin or crypto products into people's 401k, which is good news. That's good news.
Very interesting to take a look at all this and kind of digest it day by day. We really need to just buckle down and be patient. Nothing more, nothing less. I'll give you guys a quick overlook of the market and we'll end on this note. Shout out to 0 to 100 with the $2 super chat. Hey, if you're so rich, why don't you send $100 with all this XRP money, eh? This is the narrative right now. Narrative has continued with AI dominating at 33.5%. DeFi has reclaimed the second position. Memes are now falling into third. And then the token distribution, top 24 hours, top 20 tokens. Bitcoin is the number one. Ethereum only holding on at 7%. Solana eking up at 5.4. And then you have, this is an AI agent, AI XBT. Some newer coins, Wayfinder, Banker is still up here. Doge holding on. Fartcoin is making a resurgence. So looking good so far. And I want to take a look at the meme ecosystem real quick and just see what are we looking like here. What's the dominant meme? AI. Well, this doesn't really count. Doge, Fartcoin, Pepe, Act2, Pingu, Luna, SPX 6900. Bonk is still up there. Trump is up there as well. Interesting that Trump's up here. Mog is making a recurring entry into the top 20. So that's really where we're looking at. Let's see who the top KOLs are right now. Used to be people like Ansem and stuff. Oh, it looks like David Sachs is the top fucking. That is funny. That is funny. David Sachs at CZ as the top two. Looks like yeah, Ethereum or what's his name? The black guy. Fucking Ansem used to be up here. Not so much anymore. He's kind of fallen off. He's crashing out hard. But yeah, man. So we kind of we expected this. So guys, the reality is very simple. We personally believe here, I think unanimously on the Tokyo Crypto Show Season 2, we're just going to range until the end of the year. You know, nothing more, nothing less. We're just going to range. So you just got to be ready and willing to make your moves when you do. We'll be back next week, and we'll be continuing to report to you guys weekly, and more information is coming at a faster rate. Sit tight. We are in the transitionary period over here, doing some stuff behind the scenes, but everything is looking good, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for us. Looking like Q4 is going to be when we have some kind of momentum. The key things you want to be looking for are, again, as we mentioned, rate cuts. The dollar has gotten weak. I didn't check this since I was in Hawaii, but the dollar has actually been crashing since March 6th as well. Pretty big. After building up, to right around before Trump got in office, now the dollar is weaker. You typically want to see this going down as well as Bitcoin dominance, but Bitcoin dominance is actually doing the opposite. So it's a couple things, like I'm kind of wondering is TradFi trying to strong arm the whole world into be like buying only Bitcoin and making people think only Bitcoin's a good viable option. The wild west days of crypto are slowly but surely coming to an end. It's going to be a little bit more vanilla, if you will. It's going to be a little bit more controlled, less volatile. Good for some people. China just put out a warning now. China warns U.S. tariffs threaten global economic stability. Yeah, well, you'll do nothing, so shut the fuck up. But yeah, man, that's going to do it for us here. So appreciate you guys. We will continue to be here every single week, and the Crypto Minute will be back as well. We'll be updating you with everything and so much more. Until then, we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out. Goodbye.